Hi everyone, I'm Teresa and thank you for joining me here on my very first video. To kick off my channel, I wanted to share my personal journey of how I went from dropping out of high school at 16 and feeling like a victim to my circumstances to ultimately taking back control of my life and moving to London from a third world country like Myanmar to work in tech PR, all without a degree. But before we dive into that, I wanted to share a little bit about why I wanted to start this channel. I started this channel because I wanted to help people not just go through life, but to live intentionally. I know life can be difficult and I know it can be even harder to go through it alone. So I wanted to provide a little safe space where you feel like you're not alone, that, there's someone out there who's also going through a rough time like you are and who's gone through rough times like you have. And I want to be here to remind you that you have the power to transform your life if you're not happy with where you're at. You have the strength to change your challenges into opportunities to grow, and you have all the love within yourself to heal your pain and to nurture your soul into one that is full of love and peace, and ultimately bring joy into your life. Just a little disclaimer before we go into my story. I don't find it very easy to be vulnerable in public and to share my story like this because I've gone through a little bit of social discrimination that gave me a bit of anxiety, which I'm better now, but it's still not that easy sometimes. So I do hope that by sharing my story, you find some sort of comfort or, that it helps you in any way. So let's get right into it. So rewinding back to a time where it all started, I was 13 when my parents separated, and I was raised by my very hardworking mother, who I'm very grateful for, even though we did have a lot of issues back then, even now sometimes. That's another story for another day. But that did bring me a lot of pain and a lot of drama that I don't really want to go into detail right now, but that triggered a lot of emotions in me, and ultimately I got an eating disorder. I was bulimic for about 9 to 10 years. And then my mental health just started deteriorating quite a bit. I got depressed and I would stop going to school. I just couldn't get out of bed. And when I did go to school, my teachers would know that something was wrong because I was just disassociated all the time. By the time I was 14, panic attacks became a regular occurrence because I was always anxious about how I was going to afford university or if I was even going to be able to continue attending school there, because Myanmar, to give you a bit of context, Myanmar's educational system is very outdated and the credentials that you get are not very recognized by, like institutions abroad and even jobs abroad, which I ultimately wanted to go for. So there wasn't really a path that I could see as a backup plan. Looking back now, I remember applying to so many scholarships for boarding schools abroad, and they would come back to me, giving, like, I remember I got like 2 scholarships that were offering me like a 50 to 70% scholarship, but even then I couldn't afford the rest of the tuition, so I wasn't able to, take them. And eventually at 16, I had to drop out of high school, which left me really lost and confused. And I just stopped contacting my friends who I grew up with because I was so embarrassed about my situation, and I just started isolating myself. But despite the setbacks, I managed to get a business diploma in Singapore. But even after that 1-year course, I went back to being lost again because in my mind, I had this set belief that I was supposed to be advancing to university. So I didn't really know what to do with my life at that moment. When I turned 19, my mom quit her job because she was really unhappy, and which, set us back financially because she was the breadwinner of our family. There, I started to try going into the corporate world. I got a sales job, but that only lasted for a month because I was really not ready to go into the corporate world and start building my career. I think I just wasn't mentally prepared for it yet, so it just lasted for a month. But when I turned 20, I was like, no, like I have to step up. I need to take charge. I need to do this and step up for our family. So I got a job in a big marketing agency in Myanmar. It was an entry level role, and that's where I started my career. But ever since its beginning, though, I knew that my end goal was to work in the UK. Like my next big step was to work in the UK. I had my sights set since day one. Though, of course, societal expectations were a constant pressure. People kept asking me, oh, what are you doing with your life now? And I know they don't ask this out of malice. I think a lot of people were just genuinely curious and not really trying to judge me or, make me feel insecure about it. But it did make me feel insecure because the, international school expectations were that after high school, after at that certain age, you would be abroad attending university. But of course, like even though I had insecurities, I kept reminding myself that this is my own path and it doesn't have to look like other people's, and I will get to where I want to be on my own terms, in my own way, and in my own time. Spoiler alert, I got there, or here, I guess. I worked hard, I got promoted, and I did try going into different departments as well to make sure that this was the career path that I wanted to follow. And while I was working on the side, I was teaching myself new things. I was taking online courses. I was investing in certificates from websites like Coursera or EDX because they have certificates like of courses from credible universities, and it would be good to put in my resume because one, I would be showing that I am learning these things, and two, it's good for them to see that I am committed to learning and growing myself basically. I was always a little bit insecure about my educational background, so that's why I always try to make it up by learning new things and keeping myself educated in any way that I can. And honestly, I'm so grateful for that because it put me into a mindset that learning is a lifelong journey and it just doesn't stop just after school. On another side, I was applying for hundreds of jobs abroad, mainly focusing on the UK, of course, and I got a few interviews, and one of them put me through multiple rounds and even a presentation with a year-long PR strategy. And I gave that, I submitted the deck, I presented it to one of the directors, and they just ghosted me. As if being ghosted by guys is not enough, honestly. It's a tough world out here. But one day, as the universe works its magic, I got a message from the founder of the company of where I'm working at right now, and she wanted to set an interview up with me. To give you a bit of context, the PR landscape between London and Myanmar is very different in the ways of working because London is so developed and works with, multiple global media companies, and Myanmar is a third world country and we have our own language, so we only focus on the media that works inside the country. But the studying I did paid off because all of the materials that I learned were based on, worldwide tactics, and because I was, reading books from the UK and the US. So I learned strategies and tactics from there. And I was able to show it in the interview. So they were able to see that I had relevant knowledge, even though my experience was from a completely different landscape. And most importantly, I made sure that my personality came through because you have to remember companies are not the ones doing the hiring, the people are. And people have a bias towards others that make them feel good and like they would enjoy being around them. And 1 month after that interview, I got the call that changed my life. They were bringing me to London. Fast forward, moving here was a complete new journey on its own. Coming here alone, knowing that I only have myself to depend on now if, something were to go wrong. And I broke up with my now ex boyfriend of 3.5 years because of long distance, and adapting to everything here, the people, the commute. And on top of that, I was trying to get more stable in my job as well because everything was so different. And it took me a few good months to really get used to it. Adapting to both the work and the culture and keeping up with the tech industry and building my new network up from scratch because I didn't know anybody here was quite a challenge. But I think now, after a whole year, I can say that I'm in a good place, but the journey doesn't end here. There's always room for improvement, and that's the exciting part of life, right? There's always room to grow. And yeah, I'm excited to see what life brings me next. I always believe that your inner world creates your outer world, and what you think, you attract, you manifest. And that's why I value the mind so much, because skills are easy to learn, but developing the mind is where the work is at. So I just wanted to quickly go over some of the things I did to develop my mind. So, first and foremost, I developed self awareness and I practiced self reflection and introspection. I embraced a growth mindset. I chose delayed gratification over instant gratification. I learned to release my ego, but even though, of course, that's still a work in progress, it does come up now and then. So it's a constant work in progress. I learned to practice compassion for other people. I learned to see challenges as opportunities. And as I mentioned before, I really started to commit to this lifelong journey of learning. And finally, I learned to take accountability for everything in my life, because that, although it does come with this scary feeling that you are responsible for I can't speak anymore. That you are responsible for everything in life, it gives you a sense of power, because you have the power to change your life if you want to. I know this might sound a bit corny or cheesy, but trust me, believing in yourself and having that growth mindset makes all the difference. If you want something, but you still don't really know how to do it yet, or if you're scared, go after it anyway. And if you get it, you can just learn later. You can keep continuing to grow as you go along. You don't have to be perfect where you're starting. I learned this concept from a book by Richard Branson, where he says, if you're handed an amazing opportunity but you don't really know how to do it yet, say yes anyway and then learn later. That's pretty much the quote. But yeah, I read this like around when I was, I think, 14 or 15, and it just stuck in my head ever since. And yeah. So here I am, still on my journey. I'm still learning and growing, and I am still working on my dreams and my goals, starting with this video. And I know it can be hard to go through life alone when the future looks bleak and it makes you anxious, but that's why I wanted to start with this channel. I feel like I was very fortunate to learn the lessons that I did to bring myself out of that dark place and creating a life for myself where I feel peace and joy and quite fulfilled, even though it is, ups and downs, just as everything is. But yeah, I hope I can provide a sense of inspiration, or like I said, just comfort through sharing my own experiences and lessons. It'll be like I get to go through life together with you, or you go through mine with me, I guess. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll join me for my next one as well. And thank you for staying till the end. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button and subscribe for future content, and share your thoughts below if you thought anything of this video, I guess. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one, I hope. Please do join me there as well. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves, go after your dreams, and take care of yourself. Bye.